And so part of this industry is also finding what your path is in your career path. I talk a lot about career paths to everybody and what that looks like. And so here's kind of my overview of what I think a career path looks like for a stylist. So the goal here is to make sure that you interview really, really carefully from a student perspective, but for a salon owner perspective is the hiring process. So what you guys are doing is you're fishing, right? And so where do you fish? Do you go into a pond of a school? Do you go into a high school? I mean, where do you hire through social media? Do you post through Indeed? How are you guys finding jobs, right? I think it's pretty important to understand what your target audience is. As a salon owner or a spa owner, what you guys are looking for is the right target audience for commission-based, and that's why I asked this question. Because if you're not commission-based and you're a booth rental salon, it's a completely different pool, in my opinion. And so, where are you going to find that? The goal for you is to put out the right hiring process. So if you guys don't have a hiring process intact, I would get one. And that hiring process should be multiple steps, 3 to 4 steps of an interview process. The first step would be to find them, to create the right ads, to get out there on Indeed, on social media, on Facebook, boosting posts, into schools and things like this. And then the next layer is, what do you say when they come in? So if somebody shows up to your business, say, I'm looking to find a job in your business, what are you going to ask them? Who's in charge of taking them on a tour? What's the process look like? And I would design that first meeting. Then and I would have it in the system, and I would have it written down and tracked, and make sure that you teach it and train it as well, so that when 2 young ladies like this are students that show up to your salon, which I would recommend that you guys do, by the way. At this point, I would visit tons of salons where you want to work and go in and show up and just say, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking to get hired, and I want to know what you guys are all about, and I'd love to just talk to somebody about it, and I have a resume and a portfolio and things like that. And so when somebody like that comes in, what do you guys do when that happens? Do you just say, no, we're not hiring, or do you just kind of sit in the front desk, just look at them, so then they get a really bad vibe right away? Those people need to be trained on how to handle those meetings. Make sure you talk a lot about personality in the first Q&A, etc. And then the second one is going to be what we call demo day. Demo day is where we time you and we assess your skill level. And so even if you're at student level, we still skill assess. And so once they perform the service, you're going to kind of gauge it on a scale of 1 to 10. You're going to time them. So that second interview should last about 8 hours. And you're going to ask them a lot of questions. We have a form called a skill and time assessment. For a hair salon, I think it'd be really, really important. For a spa, you can definitely incorporate something like this in. You're going to create a form, and you're going to write the key things that they need to know. So if they need to know facials, they need to know microdermabrasion, they need to know nails, they need to do whatever it is they need to know, what you're going to do is you're going to make sure you itemize those services, and then you put time allotments next to it, and then a grading scale next to it. So that when you do the interview, you can use this form to grade it. And you guys need to be prepared to be graded, or not graded. I don't like that word. Let's use a different word. To be assessed. Yeah, to be assessed, to make sure it fits in. Because then by the time you're hiring them and they come on board, then you know how to schedule them, you know how to book them, or you know when not to book them, or how not to book them, right? And then you'll know you need to be an assistant for probably 6 months first, and let's get you on a different program. Or you need to just train for a month first, or something like that, right? And you guys need to be open to all of that, because you're entering an industry and you're learning from your business owners that you're going to be doing. So what are the trends in ownership and management in business? So we're going to look at a lot. So in the last decade, I want to share something with you. Booth rental and suite rental has increased about 90%, 85 to 90%. Commission-based has only grown about 16%. Commission-based salon owners, I believe your target audience is new stylists. New styles coming on the floor. So when you have that beginning 1 year to 3 year newbie that comes into the salon, you're in charge of a lot of training, a lot of life coaching, right? And then as they grow, then they start getting booked up from 3 year to 7 year. They're starting to get booked up. They're increasing their revenue. They thinking they're hot shit. You know, it's like awesome, right? And then 7 to 10 year, then it starts changing. Now they want more. Now they start asking questions like, I want management. I want more responsibilities. I want to make more money. I want more commission. I want this. I want that. So now I'm going to go on my own. I want to open my own business. All of these kind of things happen. So as a business owner, how do we buffer our business and include something for each one of those lifetime members so that we can grow somebody from being a staff member for 3 years or 7 years or 10 years to 20 years or 30 years. That creates a sustainable business. Because my question for you guys as business owners is, what is your exit strategy out of your business? You guys aren't there yet. But what is your exit strategy? I mean, have you thought about how long you want to do this? Have you thought about, are you doing this until you're 70? Or are you doing this until you're 50? Do you want to retire? Do you want to sell your business? What will your business be worth 20 years from now? You know, what kind of staff do you want? Are you going to have somebody that's going to stay with you 20 years, and then are you going to pay them out a dividend as a partner in stylist? You know, like law firms, they do this kind of thing, where they partner you in, where, you know, they're basically investing in you, and they're allowing you to own some shares into the company or the firm. Salons need to do this. We need to start seeing this as a trend in our industry, and it is becoming a trend in our industry because our industry has people that are demanding more of us as salon owners. When I first started out as a stylist, I never thought to ask those questions. I mean, I was just like, how much are you going to pay me? What do you want me to do? And that's about it. And then after that, it was really shocking to me how I saw so many people not have any understanding over, meaning business owners, over how to take care of their people and how to take care of their staff. So here I'm literally in a business that no one's willing to take care of me. As a matter of fact, they're a bit cutthroat. And I had so many bad experiences like that too. I don't know if many of you have had those kind of experiences. But I think so many times a lot of salon owners have ended up happening because they just can't stand to work for somebody who mistreats them anymore. You know? And so that's changing because salon owners aren't allowed to do that anymore. The trends are happening where the labor department has changed so many compliance laws. To be compliant now, you have to have certain, for example, one of the biggest laws that have changed in the near future, only a few years back actually, is that now we have to pay everyone an hourly wage, regardless, and we just talked about this earlier. You know, when you hire someone in, you can no longer say you're just flat commission. When I first started off, a salon owner did not have to do that. Another situation is that with this expansion of booth rental that's happening in our industry, where people are saying, I want to be my own business owner, I want to go out on my own, and I'm just going to rent a suite, and I'm going to do facials or hair or whatever that I'm going to do. They think I get to keep all the money. That's kind of their thinking. But it's because they don't understand the financial breakdown of the accounting workflow that goes into running a business. And if they even saw what that really looked like, they would think the same way you do. That's why a lot of salon owners are like, I don't understand what it's, or you wouldn't understand what it's like to be a salon owner until you're a salon owner like me, or a business owner like me. And so you guys need to take some business classes on what it takes to run a business so that you understand. And this is why in our Cosmetology Academy, we actually teach all the business classes to our students so that they understand about the compliance and the laws and things like this. What's happening is they call them separation points from having a booth rental. So for example, a salon owner opens a commission-based salon. They pay 50% commission, and then they have a stylist that says, I'm leaving unless you pay me 60%. So the salon owner doesn't want that stylist to leave, so they say, okay, I'll pay you 60%. But don't tell this person, because I don't want to pay everybody 60%, I'm only going to pay you 60%, because I don't want you to leave. And this happens all the time to salon owners. And so they get captured into these situations. And so what happens is that you get into the negative. So you run into the negative in a financial aspect. So now you are losing money on this stylist. And so how do you overcompensate if you have an entire business where you're losing money? Where you're literally bleeding, like somebody gutted you, and you're going to shut down your doors. What do? You stop paying taxes. Because that's what most people do, because they feel like if there's some way around that, I'm going to stop doing that. And so they have discovered, salon owners, that if they just stop paying payroll tax and then change you from a W-2 employee to a 1099 employee, do you guys know the difference? Mm-hmm. So a W-2 employee is somebody who is an employee. The employer has to match your taxes and it goes towards your Social Security. And they have to treat you like an employee and you have to act like an employee. If they 1099 you, you go under what they call subcontractor status. And then now you no longer have to act like an employee. So now you can come and go as you please, you dress the way you like, you do what you want, but there are policies that you have to follow to work in the company. So if you work in this company that is 1099ing you, the company policy may be, please don't swear on the floor. And that is a valid, the Labor Department determines that that is a valid policy to have as a company. But the Labor Department does not constitute you telling the subcontractor that they have to wear all black. Right? So that's just something that the Labor Department differentiates. These are what we call separation points between Labor Department, IRS, states for our industry. These are all, again, compliance issues that affect our industry right now. And so an owner says, I'm just going to 1099 you, because if I 1099 you, then I don't have to match your payroll tax, which equates to about, just so you guys know, if we make $100,000 in our salon, it equates to about $18,000 of the $100,000, so 18%. So if we make $1 million, our payroll taxes come out to be about $180,000 or more, maybe $190,000 right off the top of our dollars that we bring in. So employees, future employees, so you guys know, that's what we're talking about here. And so employers are paying too much in commission, so they have to eliminate that. So then they call you booth renter now. And so there is a difference between a suite owner and a booth renter. A suite owner is somebody who rents a suite, right? Suite owner rents a suite, and they are their own owner. They are in charge of getting, and here are the points of separation, guys. They have to have their own business license. They have to have their own business insurance. They have to have their own incorporation. You have to have your own pricing structure, and you have to have your own transactional process, which means that you have to be swiping your own money, and that money has to be going into a business account, not your personal account, because that's called tax fraud. Okay? So if the money from your suite that you make and earn money, and you hook it up in your Square transactional process, or your whatever Swipe or Square, whatever, into your personal bank account, and you get audited, that's considered tax fraud. So now let's go back to the employer that can't match those taxes anymore. So then they just 1099 you instead. But the problem with doing that is that the IRS and the Labor Department consider that illegal. They consider that illegal because there's no point of separation. Because a booth rental salon, if you are 1099 an employee, but yet I still take your client's money into my front desk and put it into my business account, that is 0.1 incorrect. You're not allowed to do that. I've known multiple salon owners that have been fined about that. They've been fined from the Labor Department. They come in, they look at it, and they fine you. So you have to write a check, and then you have to pay back past taxes, previous taxes, up to 7 years for the employee. Okay? The other thing that you have to do, another point of separation that you have to consider in these type of situations, is that you're not getting money put into your Social Security. And that's what a lot of this money is going towards, is that when you become 62 or 65 or whatever age it is that you're ready to take Social Security, you won't have any because you haven't put any money in, or your employer hasn't put any money in if you're not paying taxes in that correct procedure. So then there's a lot of challenges, but not to say that the IRS has anybody really hunting down these people. They do. They are auditing people, and I have met some of these people, okay? But, so I'm saying I realistically have seen people put in these situations. Out of our industry, 1.6 million stylists right now, it is now in the state of Ohio, 70% suite rental or booth rental compared to commission. California and Colorado are somewhere around 85 to 88%. So can you imagine the number of people that are doing this incorrectly? So now if you are going to e-file and pay your taxes correctly as a suite owner, then what you're going to do is actually, you want to make sure you're filing yourself, but now you're responsible as a suite owner to pay not only your employee, but your employer version. So you have to pay both. So if you're a sole proprietor or you're your own business owner, you have to pay both parts, which is what salon owners have to do, right? And so understanding where all of these components are and how our industry is growing, it's really important. Now, suite owners aren't going anywhere. I think over the next 5 years, this is going to be an explosive amount of growth. There are states like Pennsylvania where it's illegal to do suite rental and suite ownership, booth rental, but they're getting around it because SOLA and these sort of salons are coming in, and they are saying, we are not booth renting, we are creating salon ownership. And so they're saying you now are the owner of this 12 by 12 room. And so your space is 12 by 12, however, you have to have all your own business stuff. So you're an owner. And so it's totally legal. And so that's how they're getting around it. Now it's going to happen in every state. And if it's illegal in your state, it's still going to be growing. So these are the different models that you're going to be looking at. And it's important to understand kind of where you're at. There's booth rental and suite ownership. We talked about that a little bit. As stylists looking, I would tell you this is not the model for you as new stylist. You need to be going to commission-based salon owners or salon owners that are having systems built into their business that are going to help you guys grow. Then there's the commission-based salon owner, which has been the model that's been the most prominent for the last 60 or 70 years, but it's broken. And it's broken because financially we have not been able to be profitable as commission-based salon owners because of the demands of the stylist and the lack of responsibility of the stylist part to fulfill their responsibilities and their duties. And then the lack of knowledge from the salon ownership perspective about what their responsibilities are. For example, if you work in a commission-based salon and there are 0 front desk and 0 assistants, you're not running a commission-based salon. You're in essence allowing your stylist to treat themselves like booth renters. How long do you think it's going to be before they're actually just going to go out on their own? If they have to book all their own appointments, shampoo all their own clients, salon owners, these stylists, if you're not providing this for them, they're going to go out and do it all on their own anyway. So I want you guys to think about what you're providing. So commission-based salon owners, think about how to get a front desk started. Think about how to get assistants. How are you training your assistants? What kind of training program do you have? A stylist who hits an average ticket of $120 average ticket per hour and works 40 hours per week over a lifetime career of 40 hours, 40 years, you're going to make $4.5 million. Isn't that interesting? So your goal as a stylist is a $120 average ticket so that you can make a $4.5 million career happen in your 40 years of working. If you're 20 and you work till 60, or 25 and you work till 65. The challenge with that is that if you take some time away from those income producing hours, you're losing $120 an hour if you are sitting at $120 average tickets, which is our goal. The problem is a lot of stylists don't sit at an average ticket of $120. All right, so hybrid salons. We're going to talk a lot about hybrid salons in this class, okay? Because I believe the movement of the future is in hybrid. I don't think commission's going anywhere because there are target audiences like you two young ladies that need a commission-based salon to grow you. I believe that there are going to be suite salons because there are stylists that are ready to jump out on their own, but you better be ready to take on some serious business responsibility too. So if you work 40 hours behind the chair doing hair or doing services, tack on 10 extra hours of just doing the business stuff. And then there's salary-based and team-based. Have you guys heard of the team-based pay model? All right, here's what team-based pay is. Team-based, a man named Neil Dukoff runs a company called Strategies. They're a consulting company. They teach this model. He did not create this model. This model is actually found in government contracting quite a bit. The reason it works is because typically in a government project or government contracting job, they give you a project. They say this project will take 2 years. This is the team we've compiled, 6 people. You're the team lead. And then everyone else in this team, you guys leave it? Yes. Okay. In this team, right, so now you lead this team into what? And so for 2 years, your job is to create what end result. Make this dollar amount, finish this project for this person, whatever. So it's easy to pay a team-based pay, right? Because everyone's sort of equalized. They do the same amount of work, they do the same amount of responsibility, all those kinds of things, and they're on the same skill set, right? And so I think it's very important to understand in a salon, it can't translate the same way sometimes. If you're in a salon and you have 20 stylists and one's 20 years experience and booked out 4 weeks, and then you have a new person that comes in and barely has any clients at all, how are you going to pay them the same? It's very, very difficult. So in my opinion, team-based pay is good for teams. And so inside your salon, you have 3 core teams. You have the front desk team, you have the assistant team, you have the stylist or producer team, right? And then there's another team that's in addition to this that runs those 3 teams, which is the leadership team. So you have these 4 key teams. How you need to learn how to train all the teams differently, to pay all the teams differently, and to incentivize all the teams differently. Corporate chains, I'm not going to speak a lot about that in this class, but if you work for corporate chains, and I also educate for Great Clips as well, and so I do a lot of training, technical training for them. So they do primarily haircuts, I don't know if you know that, but they do a lot of men, 75% men to 25% female, and they need to know how to cut hair in 15 minutes. They have a 15-minute model. And then specialty is something a little bit different as well. We talked about what those are. So those are the business models. Each model needs 4 components to make it a successful model, in my opinion, but you'll see. You need to make sure you have a really, really structured compensation plan. If you don't, if it's nilly-willy, if you're going to go open a business without a compensation plan, I think you're going to have some struggles. So you need to really analyze and assess how you're going to pay somebody, and then part of that payment structure or compensation plan needs to be the benefits and the way you incentivize. The environment, what is that like? Not just the chairs that you provide, but the actual leadership and the methodology and the policies and the procedures and how you handle things like customer service, cancellation policies, late policies, no-show policies. How do you handle mistakes on the booking? How do you handle when somebody is calling out sick? How do you handle it when, all of these things? Do you have pre-written policies in place? If you don't, you should. So here's the problem with running a hybrid version of having both in a salon, is that you end up with these things that people say, well, I don't have to, but then you have to. And so it's all of these kinds of things and these challenges. This is why I think running a hybrid salon is super challenging. That being said, I think that you can create policies around that. Now, if you're doing hybrid and you have both, then you just need to define the location. And I think physical location is super important in a hybrid. I think meaning if you keep commission needs to be in this space only, so that the commission never sees the booth rent, except in the back room or whatever, wherever they want to hang out. And then booth rent needs to be in this space. Okay, then you have to have a skill and training program. So you have to have some way of measuring skill, timing skill, and making sure that you're documenting skill. And then you also have to make sure that you are making sure that you have programs around it. So having training programs. So internal infrastructure is your actual policies and procedures. Typically, it's in a standard operating procedure manual. You need to have a book compiled for that. For example, a contract when you sign on a suite rental person. When you sign, you need to have a contract for that. And that contract, and I can't tolerate it when I read Facebook forums and I see people saying, you don't need contracts, I don't need contracts. I mean, you need contracts for everything you do, everything you do. We need to be more litigious thinking in what we do in our daily business. I'm sick and tired of salon owners getting the short end of the stick, or stylists being overrun by salon owners who are unethical because they are not contractually obligated to each other or communicating properly. And communication is a significant issue. So infrastructure, in my opinion, starts with policies, procedures, systems, forms, documents, contracts, and tracking systems. So all of these things go into how you pull all of this together to create the framework of your business so that you can continue to grow it. Otherwise, you're putting out fires 24/7. 24/7. Yeah? All right. So this is what I've heard on the street from people that I've asked a lot and read Facebook forums and talked to about what people like about booth rental. We're not going to spend a ton of time on these lists because I really want to talk to you guys about the hybrid salon version, and so where we can start merging into and creating a more successful hybrid version, because I truly believe this is the way of the future in our industry. So these are some of the things that they say. I'm not going to read off, but some of the key things that I think are really important to remember, meaning if you want to merge your commission-based salon into becoming a hybrid salon, these are some of the things to think about successfully, okay? So complete schedule flexibility. This is what is like a hot button that everyone keeps saying. Hot, hot button. So students should not be having schedule flexibility. Would you guys agree with me? New stylists, they have no business having schedule flexibility. They have to be told to do everything the right way because you are guiding them and teaching them. Hence, not a good model. Independence, freedom to control my own life. I hear this all the time. They want to use whatever products they want, right? And so getting creative about product usage, I think, is really important. They want to control their own prices. Okay, so seriously, here's the problem I see with most booth renters or suite owners. They're not in any control of their prices. So why they say they want control of their prices, I have no idea. Because most of them have zero control over their pricing. They have no brochure. They have no pricing menu. They have no website with pricing on it. Prices aren't listed anywhere. If you ask them, it changes from day to day, depending on the client, depending on their mood, depending on whatever, depending on if they owe rent or not, right? A lot of things can change. So to me, structured pricing is best. So in the booth rental side, we can control a little bit more, but in the commission side, you need to have complete flexibility with pricing in the sense that you need to have level systems or tier systems. In the spa side, 100%, I think there needs to be tier systems. I don't see that as often as I should. I think spas, you need to have lots of tier pricing. And then they want to control, and I'm going to jump down a little bit, control their own stress level. I hear this a little bit. I think that comes from bad leadership. I think a lot of times commission-based salon owners have zero leadership or really horrific leadership, where they don't understand what leadership really is. And leadership, guys, is sacrificial, and it's about the person you're leading, not about you. You're there to just do what they need to help them and to teach them and to guide them. You're not there to make their life a living hell. And I think a lot of leadership roles don't understand this. And this is why a lot of people that go to booth rentals say they're going to booth rental. They're like, I just can't deal with the horrific leadership. And then the last thing I want to touch on is it makes it, they do say they want more support though, you know, so we need to offer more support to them. And then the other thing, the lesson that they say they make more money. 75%, I'm going to say, and that is a low estimate of suite rentals or suite owners are actually, in my opinion, not paying taxes correctly or at all. And I know this because I've coached hundreds of them and I've asked them to see their tax filing procedure. And so I know from the ground up what's happening. Listen, I get it. I don't like Uncle Sam and IRS either, okay? I don't. But you have to be doing it legit. Because then you can't say you make more money in this model because you're not comparing apples to apples. You know, now you're comparing apples to oranges. Now you're telling me you're making more money, but you're not technically paying your taxes, whereas I was, right? And not only was I paying or making sure you were paying your taxes, but I was matching your taxes, and I was making sure I was giving you some other benefits on top of that. So now you understand the game. You know, you got to understand that. And so that conversation now, can you make more money as a suite owner? You can. If you are doing it properly and you keep your expenses really low, you can. And I've seen that happen. When somebody's producing like $200,000 a year in gross service revenue, and they have an assistant to help them do that, and they're making sure that their expenses are super low, then the profit margin goes to them. Whereas the profit margin before would go to the salon owner. So you can make more money as a suite owner, but it takes some time, you know, to do that, and you do have to do it right, and you have to be willing to do a lot of the business responsibilities, whereas the owner was doing that before. Okay? So this is what stylists don't like employee salons. This is what I hear on the street from it. This is kind of in the interview process and coaching a lot of people. This is what they say they do not like about it, which means if you're a commission-based salon or you're running a salon, these are some of the topics that you need to probably work on and shift around. Yeah? So some of the key things I'd like to pull off of here are lack of a growth plan or a path. So if you don't have a growth path already built into what you're doing in your hiring process, meaning a contract that they sign upon hiring, not an employee contract, okay, not something that says if you quit here and you work 5 miles, I'm gonna sue you. Not that kind of stuff, okay? Because really, nobody follows through with that stuff anyway. You know, people sign all that stuff. You know how much money it would cost you to take them to court, to sue them for something like that? I mean, it's monstrous, yeah? But I think what you need to do is talk about what that growth plan is and map it out per career number and W-2 based on their tier pricing. I think for a spa, it would be ideal for you guys to have some sort of pricing structure where they can have elevation so that you're going to give them raises as they go up in tiers, and it's based on their productivity, their retention, their pre-booking, their metrics. You know, treat these producers the same, whether they do hair or skincare. It doesn't matter. Treat them the same. They are still income producers. They still produce based on service dollars, and they still need a growth plan instead of being tapped out at a certain place. You know, nail techs especially, I think this is so important for, because the nail business has just been so destructed, you know, from so long ago. They also want education and training. This is another key point you need to make sure you have. So they also want a little bit of schedule flexibility. They want new opportunities all the time. And they want to know they're going to make more money eventually. They want to know what their career path is in monetary value. And they want some benefits. People say they want benefits. And I think in this industry, it's horrific how little we offer benefits. Thank you guys so much for taking the time at the show to come and sit in class with me and to listen to stuff that I know isn't as intriguing or as interesting as, you know, texturizing with a razor or something. But, you know, you got to learn how to run a business, right? Yeah. If you're going to do it. So thank you so much, guys.